All right, hello everyone. How are the mics doing? Good? All right. Welcome to the Illini Dems and College Democrats of Illinois Comptroller Town Hall. This has been a long time in the making, so we're very happy to actually be able to pull it off. And thanks to our local Champaign County Dems, as well as Indivisible, League of Women Voters, everyone else who helped push this event out. Super appreciate it. We're going to go over the rules here in just a second in the format. But yeah, we also are, if this is true, live streaming this on Instagram Live, and there's a Zoom meeting option. So we will also be taking questions from particularly the Zoom. So I hopefully send out those links to everyone, all the different campaigns for distribution. But other than that, yeah, we are free to get started. Let me give the format and guidelines for this thing. So you guys should all be familiar with this. This is, we did pillage this from the Young Democrats of Illinois, who were very, very generous to share this with us. You will have 2 minutes for opening remarks and an introduction. You will then be asked in your own words to explain what the Comptroller is and does. I was saying Comptroller, and then I got corrected on that right before I came up here, and I was told I was going to get yelled at. After that, you guys are going to, you're going to have some pre-selected questions, about 4 or 5 of them, depending, that we had people submit online before this event. And then we're going to take some time to have some audience questions, and maybe even some from the Zoom meeting, which would be very lovely. Thank you to all the college Dems and the Illini Dems for helping us out. And yeah, after at about 8, we're going to wrap up. We'll have 2 minutes for closing remarks from everybody. And you will have 90 seconds to respond to any questions, as well as 30 seconds if you are mentioned by name by another candidate. Although, you know, we're going to be nice and lovely. That's not necessarily true. You know. General decorum. All right. The actual conduct rules. You're expected to maintain respectful and professional tone. Personal attacks are not chill. Profanity within reasonable limits. We are college students. You may critique policies and the records, but should stick to the actual issues and questions being asked. I will be moderating this event with freedom to cut folks off if things get rowdy. Obviously, as should be clear, we're having you're free to record. The campaigns are free to do so. And like I said, this will be on Zoom as well as on Instagram. But yeah, we want to just do introductions, starting with Croke. Make sure the mics are on. There you go.
Hello. There we go. Well, the mics are working, so that's a success. Thank you guys for hosting. Joey, thank you for moderating and doing all you're doing. I get really excited to be in rooms like this because you guys are the future leaders for the party. So thank you for being here. I'm State Representative Margaret Croke. By way of background, I've spent my entire career in public service, with my mission being to make Illinois the best place to earn a good wage and raise a family. I've got 3 kiddos of my own who are 6, 3, and 2. So I'm always working to make sure that I'm doing everything for them and every child in the state to give them a future they can actually count on, because we see that unfortunately slipping away. Before I was a state rep, I was Deputy Chief of Staff at DCEO, Department of Commerce. We took that office over after the Ronner administration, so it was completely decimated because we didn't have budgets for multiple years. So when I walked through those doors, I was tasked with hiring dozens of people, standing up new agencies, and creating programs from scratch. And just for context, this is not a 12-person county office. This is 300 employees within the state of Illinois. Then we got stabilized, and we got hit with COVID. So we had to pivot, and we had to pivot during a time of crisis. So we had to make sure that the economy of the state of Illinois was still functioning during this unknown time. We got 6,500 small business grants out. We got regulations out, and I feel like we did our best we possibly could during that time. And right now, we're not facing a pandemic from a virus. We're facing a pandemic from a Trump administration. And you need someone in this office who has run a statewide agency that is larger than the comptrollers and done disbursement for billions of dollars, who knows how to operate, who is an administrator, and who can pivot. I understand this office is more than just spreadsheets, that every single dollar we spend is a reflection of what we value and what we care about. So I'm focused on modernizing the office, making sure we are protecting our workers, and doing everything we possibly can if we have a constraint on our revenues to keep our nonprofits and our small business operating. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope to earn your support.
Also, I forgot to mention this, but we are going to be doing signs. Our lovely Dems exec member Matthew over there is going to be holding up signs for the 45 seconds as well as 15 seconds, which will work pretty well with the 2-minute forum question, as well as the 90-second time limit we have on all questions.
Hello everyone, thank you so much for having us here. My name is Karina Villa and I am currently a state senator, but my favorite title is and always will be that of Miss Villa. The reason for that is because I was a school social worker in one of the most underfunded school districts in the state of Illinois. As a result, I saw our teachers having to do so much with so little. I got fed up with it and decided to run for office, and I flipped not one but 2 districts and eventually became a state senator. I have never led from the ivory tower or from behind a desk. Not when I was a school social worker and going on home visits to check in on my students' mental health, or when I was a state representative and COVID hit. I was just a freshman at that time, and the people in my community needed vaccines. I was told to wait my turn, and I said absolutely not, because my community was a working class community of essential workers. I asked the corner pharmacy to bring vaccines into the warehouses, into the churches, into the schools, and they said yes. That's the kind of bold leadership that I bring to the table. As a state senator, ICE has wreaked havoc on my community. You might have seen me chasing them out of my city and telling them to get out. As the state controller, I will continue to do the same thing. You all have been fed a bill of goods when people tell you that there's not enough money for what you all need and require for your education, for healthcare, for your futures. We need to tax the billionaires and the corporations in order to bring that money to the state of Illinois to make sure that you have the bright future that you deserve. I hope to talk a little bit more about those things as we move forward today. Thank you so much for being here.
Quick question. Is it 90 seconds or 2 minutes?
It's 2 minutes for opening statements, 90 seconds for the questions that we're going to ask after
Okay.
this.
Also, Representative Croke said county treasurer. Is that alluding to me? In which case I get 30 seconds to rebuttal?
This is just opening statements for now. We're going to...
Okay. I just wanted to check. Thank you. Thanks everyone for coming today and for the Illini Dems for hosting this. I think it's very important that everyone knows who they're voting for. My name is Holly Kim. I'm a candidate for Illinois State Comptroller, and I have the honor of serving 2 terms as Lake County Treasurer in the 3rd largest county in Illinois. I manage $3.2 billion, and all checks go out with my name on it, which means out of everyone running, I'm the only one who's already doing the controller job. All checks are insured with fiscal responsibility with my name on them. So my specialty is tangible change in government, and I'll tell you why. When I was your age, I actually had a kid, and once I fessed up to my parents, I was kicked out of the house and I had to sign up for WIC, Medicaid, the Head Start program. I went to school part-time while working full-time, and about that same time, I had a relative who absolutely trashed my credit to the ground by stealing my identity. So 23 years later, I'm very proud to be the foremost authority in finances in my county, and I'm someone who will protect you and your money the way I wish someone would have done for me. I've done over 100 financial literacy seminars from my office, but I'm also all about tangible change. We're living in a time when people are like, I don't want your polished bullet points. What are you actually going to do that's making my life better? And as a village trustee, I taught people how to appeal their property taxes. As a township person, I converted the boardroom into a shopping cart food pantry. And as county treasurer, I changed how we invested, so we got 200% investment returns, and I gave $6 million back to my schools, my parks, and my libraries. I'm someone who can win the entire state of Illinois, as I was elected by 131,000 votes. That's almost double everybody else up here on the stage. My name is Holly Kim, and I'm not only someone who can do the job on day one, but I will stand with you. Every No Kings rally, I started 2 rapid response teams, and I think now calls for someone who can do both. And I'll appreciate your vote on March 17th. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Illini Democrats, for allowing me the opportunity to speak. I am State Representative Stephanie Kifowit, and I have been blessed to be on the earth for 54 years. So yes, I'm a Facebooker, I have a little bit of Instagram, but I do think that social media is very important and that we need to spread out to everybody. So I appreciate you all for being here. The Comptroller's office is the chief fiscal office of the state. And so it's not a couple million or billion. The state manages $124 billion, which is a huge number. I get that. It's a huge number. And they manage 700 different funds. So it's a huge office. Now, how do I know this is a huge office? Because I've been a state representative for 12 years. And in those 12 years, I've been on budget committees and budget working groups, and I have worked hand in hand with the current controller. Susanna Mendoza's done a great job, and I know the chief information officer of her office, I know the chief security officer, I know the individuals that are doing the job and continue to do the job. So I do podcasts, I do those, but we also have a great team in the controller's office to continue the social media outreach for all of you as well. Now, I think beyond the title of the job as controller, you need to know the person behind the job, and that person is me. And my mother was a teenager when I was born. And I don't know my father. And I spent a lot of time with my grandparents because my mother was going to give me up for adoption, but my grandparents took me in. And so I learned financial hardships really early in life because when my mother eventually married, I was the one that was on the outs because I wasn't part of their family, I was part of somebody else's. So when my mother got divorced at 14, I was again on the outs. But I joined the United States Marine Corps, and I served 4 years active duty. And I put myself through Northern Illinois University. And I have a master's degree in public administration with an emphasis on government finance. And I was a registered financial advisor. And so finance is my foundation that I've been doing for over 20 years, my friends. And for institutions like this, you need a controller that actually knows the office, actually knows Springfield, has served in Springfield, and can do the job for you. So Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't see the red.
I think we're all right.
Or is he putting up a red or just the 15? Just the 15? Can you flip it around when it's...
Yeah, that'll be a...
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Just wave it.
No, I'm my back, because I saw the 15, but I didn't see the red stop. So thank you, sir.
Yes. All right. Yeah, just for this first question, we're going to do the same order, and then we'll alternate who starts. Yes, but... yeah. Is that about our explanation question? Never mind. I think you guys did a pretty decent job explaining to everyone here what the controller does. So just to get right into the bulk of the questions, the first one we have, just to... Yes. And then we will move down the line with a different person starting each time. All right. If elected, what do you wish to do differently at the Illinois Office of Comptroller?
So I'll start off by saying I think Susanna Mendoza has done a very good job. She entered the office, it was on fire, and she had to pay back a bill backlog of $18 billion. But I think because she's been able to stabilize the office, we have room to change things. We have the opportunity to actually see some systems that could do more. So the first is modernize our payment systems. I think that it should be easier for you to see how we spend taxpayer dollars. You should see that there's $5 million for U of I in capital dollars. Where does that exist? Does it go to the Department of Commerce? Who received that contract, and when did the comptroller pay the bill? I also think we need to streamline our local units of government and their auditing system. I know that that's not like the most exciting thing, but it's something that saves tens of thousands of dollars for these local units of government and also hundreds of staffing hours. It's something that also just helps with good government. And then lastly, we have a vendor payment program within the comptroller's office, which I'd like to talk about more. But if we revamp it, it's a program that we can utilize to make sure that our nonprofits and our small businesses continue to operate if we have a constraint on our revenues. And I think that's probably what keeps me up at night, is thinking about the destruction of all those critical services.
I am the only bold progressive, the only progressive running for this seat. I am the only candidate wanting to use every lever of this office in order to protect our communities from this Trump regime. Yes, I will do the basic functions of the office. Yes, I will modernize systems. However, I will also make sure to be clearly transparent about what's happening with our budget. What is happening to pass budgets right now in the state of Illinois is that we are not fully funding services. We're not fully funding higher education or K-12 education, childcare, healthcare services. The reason for that right now is because the Donald Trump regime is slashing the budget federally, and we are not getting what we need to make ends meet in the state of Illinois. So let's be the adults in the room. I will be fully transparent to say, I paid the bill on time, this is how much I paid, but this is how much was missing in order to fully fund that service, right? And furthermore, I will come up with solutions and work with the General Assembly to bring in new revenue, not from our backs, not from the backs of your parents, but from the backs of those billionaires and corporations that aren't paying their fair share. On day one, I will also make sure that if you are a company that is doing business with ICE, that in the state of Illinois, you will no longer be allowed to have a contract with our state, with our dollars, because we need to put our dollars where our values are. Thank you.
I just want to clarify that some of the things that are being talked about can't be done from this office. This is not a legislative office. And so some of the things that are talked about can be proposed now, but haven't been. And I can't question why, but I could just point out that these are two different types of offices. So this is an executive branch of government, which means you run staff and you run people. What would I do as the controller? Number one, there's nothing wrong with wanting to do the job. As someone who relied on social services in the past, I will make sure during times of hardship, especially with 3 more years of Trump in office and him cutting federal funding, that I prioritize the reimbursements of social service providers. That's rural health, that's senior care services, schools, because during times of hardship, people need government the most. So we need to pay our bills, but pay our staff and social services. I also want to beef up cybersecurity. The number one scam that's happening out there in payments is check scams, where they acid wash the to line and put a different name. This office is in charge of billions of dollars. And so not only do we need cybersecurity, we need software enhancements. I'm also a huge privacy rights advocate, and I will make sure that the federal government does not overreach to get your privacy data out of this office. Every single time we filed taxes with the state of Illinois and received a refund, our data is in this office, and so you need a protector in this office to protect all of you.
Thank you for this question. The question was, what do you want to do differently? What is happening already today, just to give you guys a notice, is there is already a modernization program in place that I have been working with that was presented by the Comptroller. So cybersecurity and all those protections are already on phase 2, which is a $53 million project. So that's not something differently. And also, as somebody who has worked hand in hand with the current Comptroller for 10 years, it does have a legislative intent. It does work with the legislature. So that's not something that's new. I have passed bills. In fact, bills that I have passed have been highlighted in forums, and that is Comptroller initiatives working with the legislative process. So you have to know the legislature, you have to know the budget, and you have to do that. So, differently, this is what I'm going to be different that was not said and that needs to be said. First and foremost, the Comptroller's office does not look like this room. Less than 25% of employees in the Comptroller's office looks like this room. And when I was sitting next to Congressman Danny Davis, who endorsed me, we talked about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I'm not afraid to talk about it. I served 4 years in the United States Marine Corps. Disabled veterans fall under DEI. I have served with the General Assembly, passing legislation, but for some reason, the Comptroller's office does not look like this room. So there are barriers to hiring within the Comptroller's office. There are artificial barriers that people cannot get a job, and that is what I'm going to do differently for the Comptroller's office.
All right, thank you. Now we're going to start with Senator Villa and move to your left, and then move back around to Representative Croke. Our next question is, will you implement artificial intelligence at the IOC in any manner, and if so, how? 90 seconds.
This is a really great question. I am going to tell you that artificial intelligence is part of what people need to use in different ways, but not the whole thing. I believe that artificial intelligence is something that we need to be very careful about. Eventually, what has been happening, what I have seen in regards to mental health, is that people are getting addicted to using these AI interactions as therapy. They're getting addicted to using these AI interactions instead of friendships. AI is something that needs to be taken very seriously, not just the situation of AI, but also the data centers that come with it. And we need to fully be looking into how this is impacting our society as a whole. Will I use AI in some instances? Yes. Is that the entire way that this office needs to be used or informed? Absolutely not. It should be a secondary or a third way of fact checking, but not the only sole source of running this office. Thank you.
Hello? So I love this question because I think for everyone in this room, and to be cognizant, we're talking to a bunch of young people. AI is coming in the future, and we can't be an ostrich with our head in the sand and pretend it's not. That being said, I am a geriatric millennial from like the .coms. And so at the same time that I accept that the future has AI in it, I have a healthy mistrust of it at the same exact time. I have a background in not only launching software, but I would want to know the parameters that are being queried, right? And the parts that are included and the parts that are not included. I think in my current role as county treasurer, not only have I launched software, but worked on like beta tickets, and this is where it's very important, because if you don't know and you leave it up to a contractor, they could be scraping data. I'm a huge privacy rights advocate that follows the ACLU, and back in my time as village trustee, when they launched license plate readers, I made sure that, number one, if you scan the license plate and there's no warrant, you must release the data. And not to share it with a national database, because when it comes to AI, things that we have to worry about is, again, our privacy data being scraped. Whether it's facial recognition, whether it's just where we live and all of that, you need someone who's cognizant to how to incorporate future technologies, but also having those guardrails. And I am your candidate that will be cognizant of both, but also very experienced in doing both.
Thank you so much for those questions. Anybody here studying accounting? No accounting majors? Well, okay. Here's a little thing. When you use AI in accounting, and first and foremost, as I said before, the Comptroller's office currently is in phase 2 of the State Legacy Modernization Plan. So phase 2 means technology is already being in the works, bid out. It's a $53 million huge project. So I know this because I work side by side with the current controller. The AI that was just mentioned is not the AI of accounting. And if you're an accounting major, you will know that. The AI that is in finance, that is in accounting, does not touch the outside world. It does not go for rates. It does not search for things on the internet. It is a closed loop system. And this closed loop system of the AI system within the controller's office that is being proposed will only look to search out errors and become more efficient. As controller, this AI will not sacrifice any jobs. So let's be clear, folks. I am talking about reality, not just a position. This is the reality of accounting and AI in accounting systems. So thank you very much.
Sometimes when I think that there's the hesitancy to use AI, I'm like, it's like, oh, okay, well, why would we use computers if we had abacuses? Like, we need to harness artificial intelligence, but we have to do it really thoughtfully. So it has to be a closed system. It can't be something where you're like on ChatGPT and putting all of the private information out there into the world. So we've got the closed system, and then we have to think about what systems we actually want to put into AI one at a time. So first, I think we would do predictive financial modeling. And the way I look at that is not all interest rates are created the same. We have interest rates that are different on our unfunded pension liability or bonds or different types of bonds. And we have to think about, is it better to pay off this bill first because we get a better interest rate over here? That's just free money. That's just maximizing taxpayer dollars. There are also opportunities we've missed, unfortunately, as a state where we haven't gotten federal match. Those opportunities are becoming a little bit far and few between, as you can imagine, under the Trump administration. But there are still ways for us to get those dollars from the federal government and be able to harness the power of AI there. But I wouldn't want to start off by putting payroll payment processing on AI, where we are providing all of this very confidential and private information. So thoughtful, think about how we're going to utilize it. But yeah, it's a way to get rid of human error too. So it's a wonderful, wonderful tool.
All right, thank you all. Our next question was submitted in a variety of forms. We found the one that perhaps was best in our view. But we're going to start with Treasurer Kim and then do the same sort of pattern here. Do you pledge not to award state contracts to vendors that work with ICE?
So, thank you for this question. There is a candidate up here who says this all the time, and I'm just going to point out that this is it's an executive role of government, and so you follow the laws. The power of the Comptroller's office is in the spigot, the ability to either turn on the water or turn it off. So if you really want to implement this so that we do not pay vendors who work with ICE, the legislative body needs to propose this bill. And that time passed 2 weeks ago, and nobody proposed this bill. If that bill was in existence, then this executive body can follow it. And so I'm just going to point that out because there's campaign bullet points and then there's real life. So here's how I have been fighting ICE though, because I have been a long-time ally to the community up in Lake County where I'm from. I go to every single mano-a-mano event and I've taught Know Your Rights since I was a village trustee. I think everyone should know their rights, whether they're citizens or not. That's what the Constitution is for. Why are people fighting for our rights if we don't even know what they are? So I taught people know your rights in your car, know your rights in your home, how to throw a successful protest, but I also started 2 rapid response teams to fight ICE. I'm part of my own town, Mundeline's rapid response team, where we go to verify whether ICE is in our town. There are many things we could do, and even a week ago, we did a whistle kit making event with Melissa from DuPage, and so I am very active in wanting to protect my fellow residents, and I have gone to every single march and rally to protect my immigrant neighbors as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I want to correct a misstatement. It was just said that the time to file bills passed 2 weeks ago. That's technically not true. If you know the legislative process, there are ways in which bills get introduced. Like, for example, there's a bill in January 2021 that would eliminate predatory lending. Guess when that bill was introduced? It was introduced 4 hours before we voted on it. So clearly, you need to know the legislative process for this role. You need to know how to be active in the General Assembly along with being a controller, of which I do. Now, we have a lot of contracts that go through the Comptroller's office, and one of the things that I'm going to be working on is called the People First Initiative, and that is to create divisions that look at our contracts and see if they do violate the law. Now, as a controller and the person that I've worked with, back and forth, we can work together as a controller's office to pass a law to limit and eliminate contracts that have affiliations with ICE. That's something that can be done, and something that's been talked about right now in this General Assembly. As my People First Initiative, the Labor Division will look at any contracts with regard to labor and prevailing wage to make sure they are following the law. My Nonprofit and Organizational Development Division will look and make sure that we support our nonprofits and development and our organizations. But, ladies and gentlemen, you have to know how Springfield works and you have to know how the state works to do this job. So thank you very much.
Also, just want to say real quick, folks in the Zoom, you can submit questions in the chat.
Fuck ICE. I was watching a documentary on the Nuremberg trials this morning, and I just thought, I can't wait till justice is served. And I see some people who are on our streets who are having to pay the price for their cruelty. But I do want to be realistic about what the Comptroller's office can do. So the Chief Procurement Officer is Ellen Daly with the state of Illinois, but the Comptroller also has their own procurement office. So as it pertains to procurement code within the Comptroller's office, I think there's definitely a conversation about whether or not we need to limit who we are doing business with within the state of Illinois. It's something I'm open to that goes beyond just ICE. But for the state of Illinois, you would have to change this legislatively. You would have to change the procurement code. And that's something that if there was a groundswell of people telling us to do, I think we would consider it for sure. But what I have concerns about is that as the Comptroller, knowing this position, that if we were to not pay a contract, let's say it's like, I don't know, AT&T, I think they do some work with ICE, we would get sued. And then not only would we have to ultimately release those dollars, we'd also have to pay for the staffing hours as well as probably the money lost in that lawsuit to that company, which I don't want to just give more money to these awful, awful contractors and these people. So you have to be realistic about what you can do. I think there are a lot of ways we can fight the Trump administration in other ways.
How many times do we need to listen to Democrats who say we can't, I can't, we can't? How often are we going to have to go election after election after election, hearing the same old thing? We need bold leaders with bold ideas. Right now, Donald Trump is spending billions on billions on billions of dollars to send these masked monsters to wreak havoc, to kill innocent people, to invest in these detention facilities that are horrific and inhumane. I am tired of the same old, same old. I am the only person on this stage looking for bold and creative solutions to fight against this Trump regime with this seat. I am committed to doing that not only with this idea, but expanding to hold those billionaires and corporations that are getting tax vacation. You know how much Amazon is paying in federal taxes? Here in Illinois, we can hold them accountable. That is what I am committed to doing. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. All right, I like this one. Yeah, we'll start with Representative Kifowit. Doing the same little order we got going on here. All right. So to succeed as Comptroller, you have to work well with the state treasurer. How do you envision your working relationship with Treasurer Frerichs being if you were to be elected?
Well, thank you very much. Actually, I've been working with Treasurer Frerichs when he was Senator Frerichs, and we work together quite well. In fact, I have also carried legislation with his office as well. So I've worked with the constitutional officers. I know exactly how that functions and that works. And the role of the Comptroller sits on the State Board of Investments for the pensions. And so I'm the only one on here that was a registered financial advisor. I worked with Morgan Stanley Dean Witter. I know exactly how the investments work, and I know exactly how a balanced portfolio is. And that is why I have said that I will not support and I will fight any legislation that changes the investment portfolio and includes crypto in it, because it's just not a stable investment. It is fine if people want to use their private money in it, but using other people's money or campaign funds or anything else, we need to be good stewards. And so I believe that in my experience as a registered financial advisor, I work quite well with Treasurer Frerichs. And I am the chair of pensions. I know all about the pension systems, and I know about financial independence and making sure that we have a balanced portfolio and that it is secure for our retirees with the state of Illinois. In addition to that, again, the Comptroller's office is modernizing, so all the pensioners' data is secure and will be more secure once phase 2 is over with the Comptroller's office. So thank you very much.
I think it's critical that these two offices communicate with one another, and one of the problems is their systems don't speak. So if we were able to unify our software systems, or at least be able to make it so that it's not just like someone calling on the phone to tell you what your audit looks like or what our investments are looking like, I think that would save a lot of time and a lot of error. But it's not just the treasurer's office that this office needs to work with. I tell people, like, when the comptroller's office breaks down, state government breaks down. The comptroller needs to be speaking with the General Assembly, with the governor's office, with the treasurer, and with the AG. And I've been very lucky in my career, I think, to harness those relationships. I've seen bills and good initiatives from some of the constitutional offices completely blow up because they don't have strong relationships with the General Assembly, or they don't want collaboration with some of the other members or some of the other constitutional offices. I think we're all trying to work for the same goal. I think we all have the same mission in Illinois. Lucky we're all Democrats for the most part in state government on our side, at least in the constitutionals. So working together is so critical. But I think if we were able to eliminate some of the friction between our software systems and the treasurer's office, as well as the state agencies, we'd be able to get our audits done faster, we'd be able to find errors and potentially flag some serious concerns with potential fraud within our local units of government.
At the last forum, we were asked if we thought that the two offices should merge, and many of us said the same thing, that it provides checks and balances. So to the question of, I have to work well with Treasurer Frericks, I don't know that, yes, you have to work well, you have to be able to communicate with all of the officers. But I will say that as someone who will have a seat at the table for the Board of Investments, Treasurer Frericks reactively decided to invest more money in bonds for Israel to continue to fund the genocide that was happening to the people in Gaza. My vote will be no, absolutely not. Our dollars should not be going to fund the genocide. So if that means that I am not going to get along well with the treasurer, well, I hope that he doesn't stop that, stop us from being able to get along on other matters. But on that one matter, we need to do what the people of Illinois want. And I will tell you that my poll shows that the people of Illinois want the killings to stop. The people of Illinois are not okay with our state dollars, our tax dollars, your tax dollars to go to fund a genocide. Thank you.
Thank you for this question. I think I have a unique perspective because I am a treasurer, and Treasurer Frericks is one of my many mentors in the finance world. We have an ongoing joke where he's a treasurer and I'm a treasurer, so I say treasurer, treasurer sandwich when we hug somebody. I think where we work really well is in projects together. I think nowadays people are always looking for cost savings. And whether that's something like whether it's the call center or whether it's sharing information in that software from payments that are staging, right, that we would be paying next. I think that's where it would be nice to have a conversation. Because look, I don't want to merge these offices together, but where can we work together to save some time and save some money and make it better for everyone else up here? I am cognizantly aware that the Comptroller has a seat on the Illinois Pension Board, but it is the Treasurer who decides all the investments and what to invest in. And he recently, a few years ago, updated the Illinois Public Funds Investment Act that says you can't invest in anything that goes down. You also can't invest in any crypto. So there's a lot of things when you invest in public funds that you cannot invest in, and there's a lot of rules. So I think I'm uniquely equipped to handle the situation in terms of the finance role. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I think we're just gonna resume Representative Croke. We're gonna go reverse order. So, But our next question was also one that was requested, some and was touched on. But are you supportive of the Illinois Divest from Genocide movement, which calls for the state of Illinois to divest $100 million from Israeli bombs?
So I feel like this is a legislative question versus a comptroller question. So no, I don't support the disinvestment. But I want to talk about the comptroller's position as it pertains to the bonds. Fiduciary duty looks differently depending on what your criteria are. So there's ROI, return on investment, dollars and cents, but there is also obviously there is a moral decision that is made when we decide what we're going to invest in. In just a roundabout way, I think this question is about Israel, right? I hate Netanyahu. I hate Donald Trump. But I think that the United States of America deserves to exist. I think Israel deserves to exist. You can hate a leader and love a country. You can believe that Netanyahu is creating a humanitarian crisis and destabilizing a country and creating a security threat in Israel. So I just want to be blunt. I feel like that's the question that's being asked of.
Let me just get the question straight one more time. Can you repeat it, please?
Yeah. Are you supportive of the Illinois Divest from Genocide movement, which calls for the state of Illinois to divest from $100 million of Israeli bombs?
I think I hinted at that in the earlier question. I am not okay to use our state dollars to continue to invest in this genocide. I am a school social worker first and foremost. Dollars to some people who are multimillionaires, it doesn't make sense to them. But to me, it makes sense when people are hungry and standing in line and getting bombed for that. It's a problem. Just like it's a problem when on our streets, people who were just considered essential workers during the COVID pandemic and they were sent to work are getting picked up by masked monsters. I do not take $1 from AIPAC money, and I don't take money from corporations, because those are not the people who I'm going to be accountable to. I'm going to be accountable to all of you. I didn't leave my beloved profession as school social worker to sell out. That's not who I am. This is your money. You are hiring someone to be the watchdog of your dollars. These questions that you prepared are so critical and important, and I thank you, because I have been wanting these kinds of questions at our forums. So all of us can be on the record as to where we stand on these issues. This is your future that we are fighting for right now. Thank you.
So I want to make clear that I don't want Illinois to invest in not only any genocides, but also war crimes and humanitarian crises. As county treasurer during the Russia-Ukraine crisis, I took a good look at our portfolio. And I told all of my investment firms, look, I want to make sure, number one, that we're not investing in anything foreign, but that number two, no foreign subsidiaries either, because that's how they could sweep under the wheel. And turns out, there's a U.S. subsidiary of a foreign country. I've followed the articles in terms of, the bonds over at the Treasurer's office. And I will tell you, the first author of them was someone, Jessica, here over in the Champaign area. She wrote the article that highlighted the bonds that were over in Ferrick's office. But also, the candidate for federal Senate, Brian Maxwell, is continuing to write articles and updates on them as well, and whether they're going to be reinvested once the bonds are matured. What I would like to see is maybe a legislative agenda at the House and Senate that says they won't invest in any countries at all that are committing war crimes, genocide, humanitarian crises. And that way you don't have to keep changing the name out, when it's China or when it's somebody else. But I think we should put our values where our hearts are, because we are the state of Illinois, and we are a blue state. And I, as county treasurer, am someone who enrolled ESG, environmental social governance policy, in investing before the state of Illinois treasurer ever made it mandatory. Because I believe in a future that not only has environmental, but social governance as well.
Thank you so much. as was mentioned before, we do have the Illinois Public Funds Investment Act. It is an act, and legislators do change the act. So just because crypto is not in the act right now, doesn't mean that isn't legislators that are going to introduce legislation to change it. That is why you need to know the legislative process to be an effective controller, so that you know not to say things that are factually incorrect. The legislative acts can change. Now, as a registered financial advisor, the only one on here, and the only one that really talks about substantively my background and my foundation of where I come from, I believe that we should divest in those bonds, and I believe that we can get the same return on investment through other means, because that's the right thing to do. And I know that we can have a portfolio that performs fiduciary responsibility while still making sure that we are there for the taxpayers, and that, as was mentioned, we do have the social component and the environmental component as well. Those were pieces of legislation that actually I voted on, because we work hand in hand with the Treasurer's Office, which is completely separate from the Comptroller's Office. It does completely separate things. So on the record, yes, we should divest from those bonds immediately. We can get a different return on investment, and because I was a registered financial advisor, I definitely know how the asset allocation needs to be. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you all. Since we're just about at 8 o'clock, I think we're going to get to closing statements here. I had a fun one, but I don't know if it's vitally necessary. Theo, this was your other comptroller's question. But yeah, I just really quickly want to thank all of the candidates, our wonderful candidates who showed up today. Us in Champaign were a little bit out of the way, but I think engaging with students and engaging with downstate is critically, vitally important. And I know everyone here and all the rest of our Dems, who are either on our different live streams, really, really appreciate the effort you guys put into coming to this day and answering our questions honestly. So we'll start with Senator Villa. Just go to order we've been going. So 2 minutes for closing statements.
So it's okay to want to do the job of controller, but I don't want to just do the job. We need bold leaders to do the movement of the people, to use the platform to talk about how everyday people are struggling and how our budget isn't working for everyone. I am not taking donations from MAGA Republicans like one of my opponents. And I have never taken $8,000 from my own campaign funds to invest in crypto, nor have I ever accepted crypto donations to create a chicken coin. This is a serious job, folks. Please be educated on who you're going to vote for in this seat, and I hope that you have seen my dedication to doing the job the right way on behalf of Illinoisans. And if you walked in with someone else's sticker and thinking that you were going to vote for someone else, it's okay to change your mind, because our future depends on it. Your future depends on it. This is a statewide seat that is so critical to have a bold, progressive leader. It is time. It is your time. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Holly Kim and I'm a candidate for Illinois Comptroller. I want to thank you all for coming here tonight. I do believe young people are our future. I'm the only candidate up here that has a fellowship program, and some of our young people are here tonight, so thanks for coming out. We also have an internship, and I firmly believe, because I'm someone who not only live streams, but goes on podcasts and does explanation videos. In fact, I was a moderator for a subreddit called Run For It, where we taught other Redditors how to run for office. I firmly believe we need more everyday, regular people running for office to represent all of us. I'll also point out that literally nobody said that they were going to run that bill against ICE contractors. So I served on the Illinois Comptroller's Bank On Commission against predatory lending. And what that means is I prevent scams from happening, right? I'm part of a commission with the Comptroller's office. And so we worked with the Black Caucus and our legislators to lower the rate at which payday loans could charge. And it went from 277% to 36%. And I'll tell you that all the payday loan shops in Illinois closed up shop and left. I'm very proud of that. Not only that, but my office has taught over 100 financial literacy seminars, including free housing grants in historically redlined areas. There is a way that you can have a combo of someone who does math and fights for social justice, and I'm that person. I'm also very proud to say that in that commission, I've also taught classes on crypto and financial scams in government. I've also helped my county to claim $1.4 million of checks that were unclaimed from the Treasurer's office and the Comptroller's office. And so I have a unique perspective in how we can use these offices to help people. And I think that's a difference too. I also want to point out that I get a lot of knifing up here because I'm the person with the most experience, but also currently in the lead. We are a grassroots campaign with over 500 volunteers across the state of Illinois. And while I'm here, there's a phone bank happening tonight. So if you'd like to volunteer, please sign up with one of my campaign managers. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I don't call telling the truth knifing. I call telling the truth. And things that I say are verifiable. And I just want to say that I did vote for the predatory lending bill in January of 2021. I voted for the Bacon Commission bill in 2019. The Bacon Commission bill was formed in December of 2020. The subcommittee of the Bacon Commission was formed several years after that bill was passed. It is. And you can look at this because they have annual reports online. So please look at the annual reports online and verify things. And I want you to verify things with me too. And you can verify that during the Rauner years, which I am the only one who served during the Rauner years, that I stood up against Bruce Rauner. You can look at it on YouTube. I stood up against it at the inauguration. I stood up and I worked with the current controller by the 2.5-year budget impasse, which I know you all did not feel it in the colleges, but it was real and it was hard. I stood up against a guy named Mike Madigan, who was, quote unquote, the most powerful person in Illinois, the longest serving speaker of the nation. And I stood up to him and I challenged him, and now he's in jail and I'm still in the General Assembly. I've been in the General Assembly for over 12 years looking at the state's budget. And I believe that experience matters. You have to know how the state runs. Just like driving a car. You have to know how to drive a car to be able to drive the car safely, effectively, and with results. So what I'm going to do as controller is continue the great work our current controller has done. But I will look to make sure, just like I have as a representative, a Youth Advisory Commission, which I have. And as a representative, I've worked with the communities. And we're going to bring in a mentorship program. And we're going to make sure that people can get the job and bring down the barriers so that the controller's office looks like everybody in here. So thank you very much, Stephanie Kifowit, running for controller, kifowitforcontroller.com. Thank you all for having me.
So when you love something, you want to protect it. And I love the state of Illinois. I love it more than anything. It's my favorite place in the entire world. And as someone who's 34, I have seen the opportunities that I was promised never really come to fruition. And I'm raising my 3 kids here, and I will do everything I possibly can to make sure that in the next 2 years, we don't have irreparable damage to the state. I value fiscal responsibility. I don't think that's a bad thing. But I recognize that that goes hand in hand with protecting our most vulnerable communities. I've been on the front lines of investing in education and healthcare and our social service safety net, but we can't make those investments if we don't have stable funding. I can't give my kids the future they deserve if we don't leave a fiscal house that is secure. I am running for this position because I want people to not have to choose between putting food on the table and paying their bills, where small businesses know that they can do work with the state and they will get paid and not have to close their doors, and where you all know we are managing taxpayer money as responsibly as if they were our own. I've been really lucky in this campaign to get the endorsements of Governor Pritzker, Kwame Raoul, 2 former comptrollers, Jesse White, the Cook County Democratic Party, because they know I want to do this job and that I'm going to do it well. And I don't think it is a glamorous job. This is an administrative job We need to make sure we're doing everything possible against the Trump administration. And thanks guys for being here. You're awesome. I think most everyone's a poli-sci and comms major, maybe. Like me.
History.
Yeah. So keep doing the good work.
Can we please give a round of applause for our candidates? Yeah, and unfortunately, we're going to have to reserve this to our college Dems, but if there is going to be a little bit of a social after, we talk to the candidates some. You guys will always stick around. Talk to Aiden. Aiden, our wonderful president of the Illini Dems, myself, or, anyone, I guess. But yeah, thank you, everyone.
No. We got enough. Were smart one. I was. How could I? Oh, fair enough. No, for sure.